This is the excuse me, the video for Friday, February the 26th, the last working day of February. Whew, hard to believe that. It's going to be March next week. So, the big news this week has been all about Latta. In case you haven't heard, Latta had a terrible problem. I was about to call it flooding, but that really doesn't adequately describe it. It was more like sewage backing up in the building. Ew. So you can imagine how terrible that was. Latta is kind of in a little bowl, the whole town of Latta, the whole community, and especially our building, which is an old school. So when there are excessive rains and flooding in the area, it really gets hit hard. We actually had that happen back during one of the hurricanes. So it happened, and it was nasty indeed. So when all of this started coming to fruition on Tuesday night, uh, everybody was already home, and Neil and the guys were out at the building, and they were observing this and said, "There ain't no way we can open this building tomorrow." So we did. We closed the buildings, but I really want to tell y'all that it was an incredible amount of teamwork. People rallied together. And remember, this is all taking place about dinner time, 7:30, 6:30, late in the evening. But people rallied together. We got the roads, trucks mobilized. We got the Moby mobilized. We started letting folks know about this and even letting patients know, and remember that we were scheduled for vaccines in Latta on Wednesday. Well, I really, really, really didn't want to cancel those vaccinations. Vaccinations are just so important. So everybody, lots of people went to work trying to make contact with folks there in the town and in the community. And remember, we got some people that live directly there. Daniel Myers actually used to be the site administrator there, and two of our providers, Chris Lane and Tim Brown, actually live in the community, so they knew people, and that always helps. And we managed to find a good location, the recreation center, so that we could keep on with our vaccination schedule, just move it a few blocks away. And that's what we did. It was amazing how everything came together. Teamwork. This is really the picture of teamwork. We were only closed just on Thursday. Excuse me, just on Wednesday. We opened back up on Thursday. Neil and his crew worked oh so very hard to disinfect and make sure that everything was clean and disinfected and was ready for patients and staff to come in on Thursday morning, which is what happened. So that's the big news for this week. It was quite an experience in recovery. It was good to have those roads units there. One of the grants a while back actually allowed us to purchase one of the roads units for just this purpose, recovering from a disaster or responding to a disaster. Also, we had telehealth in place, which is ideally suited should a disaster hit like this. And one of our locations, or more than one, sometimes have to be closed. So it was quite an experience, and I want to really give kudos to everybody who worked hard during their dinner time hours and bedtime hours on Tuesday night. Job well, well, well done. Just a little bit of updates around vaccines. We are getting our arms around this. We're beginning to learn how to do it on a pretty good flow. We have a regular schedule that is going to be put into place next week. There was a little bit of variability on the schedule this week, but you might recall that we only have five of our larger centers with more building space, room, and more more ability to accommodate 200 or 300 vaccinations. Although, unfortunately, we are experiencing some decline in the requests, the appointments for vaccines. And this is not just us, this is happening statewide. You know, the restrictions on who can get the vaccine are so limited, and there are so many more people that want the vaccine. We're hoping that the governor's office and the key state legislatures and DHEC will hear this and, well, not necessarily this video, but hear the plea from lots of people that we need to get much more responsive in giving the vaccination out to folks that are willing to take it, because if you're willing to take the vaccine, you yourself can be an ambassador. You can convince others. You can say, look, it worked out okay with me. I know some people uh, may worry about that second dose. Yeah, there have been some people that have felt bad, even run a fever for a couple of days. But, you know, this time in the previous years, we have had huge absenteeism from flu and upper respiratory diseases and just you know, the time of the year. We're not experiencing that this year. So I'm kind of saying that a couple of days is not that bad. I was fortunate. I didn't have even a couple. I had one day, but even so, if we have to have, you know, a bad couple of days, then so be it. Let's do this. Let's get this virus under control. So full steam ahead. Testing is also full steam ahead. We're still doing a right good bit of testing. We have become very aware that the public, either other employers or the public in general, doesn't understand about what can happen to someone once you have tested positive, but you have recovered or you've remained asymptomatic. We see circumstances too many times where the providers are saying, you can't come, excuse me, the employers are saying, you can't come back to work until you've tested negative. Well, that's unfortunate because sometimes a person doesn't test negative after they've been positive for upwards of 3 months, even if they've been asymptomatic or fully recovered. Now, we've been trying to give folks a letter from the provider. The person needs to have at least a telehealth visit so the provider can assess them and say, yeah, this person is recovered. They are well beyond the point, and they may still get a positive test result, but that's to be expected. So remember this. Remember that someone who has tested positive, but who has recovered, who is asymptomatic or has recovered and is past their 14-day quarantine, we will work with them to give them a telehealth visit or something like that. They can come in and get a visit so that they can return to work. We need to get people back to work, and not only that, people need their jobs. So we have really started noticing that this is a problem, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I wanted to kind of make sure that we at Care South had the correct information. We are doing very well. We have diminishing numbers of staff who have to be on quarantine either because they have tested positive or they have been exposed. So that's good news. This is happening across the nation, but at the same time, we are a little worried. We are seeing variants of the coronavirus itself, and although hopefully, the vaccines that we've all been getting will address that coronavirus, and so far it looks pretty good. But you know, we still have a pandemic going on out there. But kudos, you are doing much better in terms of exposure and in terms of the need to quarantine, which really makes it so much easier to run divisions and services like the call center or one of the sites or what have you. So you're doing much better. And CDC also released a guideline that we are soon going to be publishing and making sure that it's known to all of y'all. If you have been fully immunized, and by that I mean had your second dose, and it's been 2 weeks at least since your second dose, but it's you're not past 3 months having received your second dose. You with me on that? So you got a little time period there. 2 weeks after your second dose, but before the third month. If you fall into that time period and you get exposed, the evidence and the CDC guideline, and soon to be released our own guideline, says you don't have to quarantine. Let that sink in. So that's really good news. Now, we still have a little bit less than 40% of you that have chosen to be vaccinated. But if you have been vaccinated, remember that. You'll be getting the guideline out. And as you report any exposure to Denise or Tracy, those will be questions that we'll be ascertaining. And if you've been vaccinated and are in that time block, you won't have to quarantine. Good news. The last thing I want to bring up is a kind of a bittersweet event that's going to happen tomorrow. Many of y'all may be aware that we have two offices in Bishopville. We, of course, had our big office, but we've always had a little smaller office that has been staffed by Dr. Leon Hunt. Dr. Hunt began practice years and years and years ago in Bishopville, and he has been a mainstay to that community for decades. But he's made the decision, given the coronavirus and all of the implications, and frankly, just keeping up with things, that it's time to retire. So we have gone through the process with our federal offices. We are closing that office, and we are having a little appreciation, a small event tomorrow to appreciate what Dr. Hunt has provided to us and to the community over these last many years. And it goes even further. Dr. Hunt is actually donating that building to us, that building and property to us. We're not going to put medical services back in there, but we have a significant need for administrative space and space that we'll be able to use for services within the Bishopville community. Lots of things might be going on out of there: outreach, community development, food distribution. So his legacy will live on for many more years, and we all wish him the best. I remember a story that Dr. Smith used to talk about Dr. Hunt. Um, he is our oldest provider, but he is also the provider for a number of years, and that still may be true for now. That over the tenure of his stay, his employment with CareSouth, get this, has had the least sick days. Now, that is amazing. What a work ethic, what a commitment, and what a dedication he has had with the community. So it is bittersweet tomorrow saying goodbye to Dr. Hunt, but we sure have appreciated everything he's done and what he has meant not only to us but to the community. So, folks, I'm going to leave you now. I wish you a happy weekend. You may have a little more rain coming, but I think the temperatures are going to be a little bit better. So enjoy, take your break, and let's see what next week has in store for us. Bye bye.